What's up YouTube? Ryan Panny here. Hope you guys are doing reasonably well. I am really excited to get back to some metal videos on this channel. I feel like it's been too long. I've got a couple really good ones in the queue, but we got one more here to do that gives me a chance to talk about a lot of other shit, which is honestly true to life because probably 40% of the time when I'm listening to music, what I'm listening to is not metal. Particularly when it comes to new music, because there's only so much I'm going to get out of listening to a new Suffocation record that sounds exactly like the last 10. I'm going to get a lot more out of something, and it's going to excite me a lot more if it's new to me or if it's something that I've struggled with in the past that I'm still trying to figure out why people like. That's what excites me in terms of new music. These quarterly songs videos are a really good chance for me to check in about that without going too far out of my wheelhouse. So, as usual, this is now the third of these I've done this year. It's gonna be 15 of my favorite songs from the past quarter, fiscal quarter, if you will. Alphabetical order by artist, no metal music. As usual, you can find the expanded Spotify playlist with honorable mentions in the description. One more quarter of 2020. Thank fucking goodness. Actually, 2 more months, really, because it's the end of October when I'm shooting this. I feel like this year is never gonna fucking end, but we still have to make sure that we document all the great music that's come out of it because there has been a lot of it. Here they are, Best Songs Q3 2020. First up here, I finally got into a 90s artist that I never liked or cared about, Alanis Morissette. There's a bunch of really good songs on her new record, Such Pretty Forks in the Road. And maybe my favorite of them is the single Reasons I Drink, which, yeah, I know it technically came out as a single last year, but it was on this record, so it counts. It just has this irresistible pep to it with these sort of awkward vocal phrases of hers that I find really quirky and fun. And it also has that really interesting dynamic of being a song that sounds like it's being delivered almost flippantly. But the subject matter, when you read it, is super intense and by all accounts very personal to her. So it ends up being something that people can deeply relate to, but it doubles as a perfect pop song. Authors of Forever by Alicia Keys has undoubtedly one of my favorite instrumentals to come out of R&B this year. Mark Ronson, the hit-making machine himself, was involved on the production side of this song. And you know, Alicia's voice obviously is amazing and she can sell anything, but these lyrics here about taking your life into your own hands and owning your destiny and being the author of your story, they're really touching. And they feel like they're very deliberately meant to be a ray of hope for someone who's listening who feels hopeless or feels not in control, which is a very easy feeling to come across. Aside from the deeper philosophical argument of free will and determinism, we generally want to feel like we have some autonomy in our life, and a big part of that is owning our autonomy. So Born Cold by the English emo/pop punk band Creeper is up next. This was really cool for me because the band's debut, Eternity in Your Arms, despite all the scene kid acclaim, I really didn't get it. I didn't see it, but there was huge growth on this album. I hate to make lazy fucking comparisons, but the band really do sound like heirs to the throne of My Chemical Romance, or Brand New, or Funeral for a Friend. That's another one that comes to mind. They pull off that difficult to achieve combination of, on one hand, you have real bite to Will Gould's vocal delivery, and you have real sharp edges to the guitars. It sounds kind of mean, but you also have the melodrama. They also bring that sensibility. And that really is difficult to do because when you make music like this, that's kind of a combo of two very different worlds. You have a little bit of metal creeping in, and then obviously you have pop punk, and you have emo. It's very difficult to not give in to just being whiny or just being mean sounding. And I feel like Born Cold is a nice, quick encapsulation of the way Creeper do both so well, wrapped up in one nice big hit song. Disclosure's Watch Your Step, the opening track off their new record Energy. Nas's beautiful and talented ex-wife Khalees lends a hand here and helps to make it one of the most hooky and straightforward tunes on that record, which is funny because when I first listened to the album through, this was a song that I thought, because it was so kind of quickly digestible, it was going to be the song that I sort of passed over and didn't return too much, but this ended up being the song that endured the most as I return to that record occasionally because I'm not super into it. Ellie Goulding with Love I've Given. As a fan of Lights when it came out, like the whole album, not just the hits, like deep cuts and all, I've been so disappointed with Ellie's solo material over the last basically 10 years. I mean, her unique voice has been the only thing memorable about it. Other than that, it's just been cut and paste pop, which is just very frustrating because it feels like a waste of a voice. But Brightest Blue is her best in a decade. That's something I did not see coming. There are a lot of engaging themes on this record of self-empowerment. There's overall a more minimalist approach sonically, although not so much with Love I've Given, which really fills up a room. Her vocal performance here is just awesome. I'm probably going to regret regret picking this song when it becomes the fourth and most overplayed single on the record. I'm just gonna kind of predict that. But for now, I love it. The front bottoms are next with Camouflage, a great combination of those punchy indie folk guitars in the verses, which feel very suited to like a rom-com, but then a genuinely full and forceful chorus that really took me by surprise because it really breaks up and cuts through that non-stop sense of irony that you get with bands like the Front Bottoms. Now this next one was maybe my biggest shoo-in of any of these songs, Run Renegade by Chiesa. Her new record Crave is just overrun in the best way possible with that buoyant, girlish pop music that I love so much. You know, it doesn't really sound all that much like Carly Rae's Emotion record, but it does give me those same feelings. And the opening track, Run Renegade, is maybe the best example, although I do enjoy the record front to back, and there's a chance that it maybe even shows up at a year-end list. Next, Religion is never out of fashion for Lecrae, whose track Wheels Up is one of several stellar highlights on Restoration, his new record. I fucking love this guy's music. It's so soulful and introspective, but it carries with it that general sense of optimism that more spiritually inclined people tend to have and that more secular and nihilistic people tend to lack. There's just a purity to what he does. Sometimes when I feel like I've listened to too much ratchet hip-hop, returning to a song like Wheels Up or like anything on Anomaly, it feels like cleansing myself, like I'm just taking a nice shower and just bringing my mind back to that state of gratitude and humility where it functions best. Whether God gets you there or music about God gets you there, doesn't matter. Now here's a group that I never heard of before I decided to kind of on a whim give their new record a chance. Lovely the band. Their song Emo is so catchy. It has this bright and bubbly post-chorus that somehow manages to outdo an already irresistible hook in the song. And what's cool is they're definitely an indie pop band, but they have the light-hearted immaturity of a pop-punk band, and those two elements make for a great combination on songs like Emo. And there are a couple other tracks on the record that I enjoyed too, like Flowers on My Grave, that's another one. Marilyn Manson, We Are Chaos. This was a real shock to me that Marilyn Manson, who put out his career-defining Holy Trinity of albums 20 years ago now, ended up making one of his most anthemic songs to date here. Seriously, if this had come out during his prime in maybe the mid to late 90s, this would have been one of his definitive singles. I love on this record how he and Shooter Jennings, who co-produced the record, they dropped a lot of the industrial influence, they dropped some of the metallic crunch that Manson's had on and off on records, and they just focused on making songs, on making hits. There's no excessive weirdness to his music, none of that. Just really well-crafted songs on this record. And that makes it a wonderful latter career achievement for him. Morgan Wallen's Seven Summers, I have to give some props for just nailing that nostalgic pop country vibe. It really does feel like an updated version of Eric Church's Springsteen. Those clean guitars and the main theme have such a rich tone to them. They really are the key to the whole song in some ways because they literally feel like you're sitting by the lake with a light breeze reminiscing on the one that got away. It makes you feel like that. You know, I wish people would give these pop country guys a little bit more credit because crafting a genuine hit like this, something that feels this universal, it's a lot harder than people realize, I think. Like when you listen to this song, unless maybe you've never been in love, maybe you're a priest or something, or maybe you got lucky and married your high school sweetheart or something, I can't imagine anyone over the age of 22 listening to this song, listening to these lyrics, and not feeling something. I enjoyed Spinning My Wheels, the opener on the new My Morning Jacket record. It's a great nighttime tune, and the combination of the lush background vocals and the strings really brought it home for me. It's a bit of a fake out for a lot of the blues rock that's to come on the record, but as its own kind of standalone tune, it's great. Pop Smoke's Gangstas. Oh my God, this fucking thing, well, first off, RIP to Pop Smoke, this thing just wonderfully recreates that gritty mid-2000s New York hip-hop that I grew up on and I love. Like just the menacing kind of Dre influence beat, Pop Smoke's smooth flow, everything about it feels like a Real Talk or a Beg for Mercy or Documentary technically is a West Coast record, but it sounds like all the other stuff that I'm talking about. The 50 Cent influence here, of course, is very palpable. The way Pop Smoke can be so smooth and have the words just kind of roll out of his mouth and be so hooky, but also so intimidating and scary as well. I fucking love this song. My favorite song of the quarter, though, and I'm realizing I kind of misspoke a little bit when I was talking about Chiesa, by far, actually, is Victoria Monet's Experience. Just a perfect R&B jam. You can't listen to this song once and not instantly fall in love with it. Khalid's guest vocal performance here is great, although he really is not needed because she totally could have carried this thing herself. I'm just in love with her sensual vocals, and then the instrumental is great. And I just wonder, like, when people talk about WAP being sexy, have they not heard Victoria Monet's music? And lastly, on a depressing note to end here, Willie Nelson's rendition of Yesterday When I Was Young. Good for a cry, or two, or three. This song has a bazillion versions to it. Just look up Higher Encore if you're curious. H-I-E-R, Encore. But as we've seen with like the Coldplay song is a good example, Willie Nelson's understated twang can really redefine a piece of music, no matter how many times it's been performed. And that, as they say, is that. This is a weird bunch of songs. Usually when I put one of these together, it flows pretty nicely as a playlist, but there's no fucking way these songs are gonna flow together. They're so all over the map, and it's, I think in a way it's maybe the most disparate and diverse one of these that I've done, which is fun. And still check out that Spotify playlist because you can kind of cherry pick the songs I talked about, and there's also 10 honorable mentions on there by the likes of people like Big Sean and Brandy, etc., etc. And yeah, the next time we do one of these, it'll be the holiday season. That's pretty crazy. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video and are not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so by clicking right over here, as well as checking out any of the other music-related content that I publish on this channel on a weekly basis. I really appreciate you guys watching, liking, disliking, just engaging in any fashion. Twitter, Instagram handle @RyanPanMusic. Again, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you soon.